kick it off. Hi again, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for watching this session on Kaya Responsible Travel and their summer program offerings. My name is Angelo Pisano. I'm the study abroad coordinator at Smith College. If you don't know me, I've got a background in a couple of different areas. Study abroad in Germany, exchanges nested within exchanges from Morocco to Turkey, and internships abroad, different things like that. And lately, it just dawned on me, my most frequent travel destination has become India. And Emily, you and I nerd out about India from time to time. I'm joined here today by Emily Tong, who is an all-around wonderful human and part of the award-winning team. You guys have won awards, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, at Kaya for their work in ethical volunteering and stuff like that. And so I'm excited to hand over the reins to her so that she can let us know about all of the opportunities, but specifically any of the questions that arise in this session. If you're hearing about some exciting opportunities and you're watching this online later, please set up an appointment with me and I can connect you to Emily. I'm sure Emily will share your details as well. But with that, I wanted to kick it over to you and just let you give your perspective on your programs.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks for joining. Let me share my screen here. I do have a presentation. Let's see if this works. Angelo, you can keep talking if I think, let me see if this works. Do you see the slideshow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, looks good.
Cool. All right. So welcome. I'm going to be talking about Kaya Responsible Travel today. So a lot of people, as Angelo just mentioned, think of us as the volunteer group, but we have definitely changed in the last 5 years or so. We've added quite a few internships. That's actually our primary base right now. But we do have service learning and study abroad options as well. So we'll talk a bit about that. So just a brief intro of myself. My name is Emily Tong. My email is down below, emily@kayaresponsibletravel.com, and I'm a program coordinator. I've traveled to 7 of the Kaya countries so far. New Zealand is the one pictured here. Australia is where I studied abroad, in Tasmania, Australia. China, India is where Angelo and I connected. So I taught photography in Varanasi for a summer while I was in college. I spent some time in Vietnam, the Philippines, and most recently during COVID in Belize. So doing a faculty-led program there as well. And I've worked in international education for 5 years now. And just a fun fact, while I was in India, I did see the total solar eclipse, and there was only a few, I think 3 places on land at the time that could see it, and Varanasi was one of them, so I lucked out there. All right, so about Kaya Responsible Travel. So we provide sustainable educational programs in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So we use the UN SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, as a base. And so all of our programs can tie into at least one of the Sustainable Development Goals. So our mission is to promote sustainable social, environmental, and economic development, empower communities, and cultivate educated, compassionate global citizens through responsible travel. So it's a mouthful, but basically we want to do good by the people that we're working with and good by you, so that it's a win-win for everyone involved. We were established in 2009, and as Angelo mentioned, we have won some awards. So we do like to brag about that. So here are a list of the types of programs that we offer. So again, international internships in person is our primary focus. We also have added virtual internships within the last 2 years. We have study and intern abroad options. So this is kind of the best of both worlds if you're wanting to have a traditional classroom experience, but also tack on an internship either during or after your program. And then if you just wanted to do some service abroad, we have those as well. And those are typically a shorter term, so usually like 2 weeks or more. So a couple of things that we think make us special. We have so many offerings all over the world. So again, Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And we have great program advisors who are able to help match you to a project. So they'll take what you have experience in academically, or if you've had any previous jobs, and what you're hoping to get out of your experience, we'll be able to help match and find which program is right for you and what you're wanting to get out of it. We also have an ethical approach. So again, this is in our name and is in everything that we do. Truly, we have so many meetings about how we really do the most responsible programming, especially even most recently, we've talked about this thoroughly with virtual programming. So you can rest assured that if you choose one of our programs that, again, you're doing right by the community and also are making a significant impact both for the community and for your own resume. And then we're by your side from beginning to end. So from now until when you come home and even beyond, we're here for you. So we have our team in Northampton. And then we also have some of our team in the UK and Ecuador and the Philippines. But in each location, we do have a site director, so you're always supported throughout. So these are the locations that we operate in. Some of these have yet to be reopened. We are working to reopen them as soon as it becomes responsible and sustainable to do so. Some locations also have some programs open, but not others, again, if it's not ready yet. But we have, I would say we've opened probably 75% of the locations so far. So what does an in-person placement look like? And this is looking at international internships specifically. So all of your placements will be, again, with an organization that has a social or environmental impact that revolves around the UN SDGs. Your project work will always be challenging and meaningful and in your academic area. So you'll be able to work on a project and have that takeaway to put on your resume. So you have a program supervisor who will see through your project with you. Again, the support team. So we have a site team to provide a cultural orientation and reflection and local expertise. They're also there if anything from an emergency to you lost your keys to your apartment, they'll be able to help you. Then again, you have your project supervisor. And we also provide a reentry toolkit to help kind of synthesize what you've learned as you have done your internship. For the accommodation, this really ranges depending on what placement you have. So it might be a volunteer house or an apartment or camping. It really ranges, or even a homestay. So for example, in Vietnam, you could choose either a homestay or an apartment. If you're working like this group is in this photo, it's probably going to be a volunteer house in the Amazon. So it really ranges. And for a commitment, generally for internships, we recommend 8 weeks or longer. This is to allow you to get enough hours for credit. But we can, for some placements, we can do as little as 4. And for costs and deadlines, we operate a little bit differently because all of our programs are rolling. So we don't have set deadlines except for a very few number of programs. So pretty much anytime you're wanting to go, we can take you. And these costs, again, vary depending on how long you go for and where you go. So something in Australia is going to be more expensive than something in Ecuador.
Emily, quick question
Yep.
for you about project supervisors.
Yep.
For most Kaya placements, are those professionals like on a full-time, like as a full-time staff member, not necessarily with Kaya, but with some of your partners? Or, are there occasions where an intern might be placed at an organization where they're supervised by someone who volunteers their time?
More often than not, it will be with somebody who works at the organization.
Okay,
So a full-time organization member.
super. I'll come back to that towards the end.
So travel in the time of COVID, again, I've touched on this, but we are only reopening locations and projects once it is safe for the locals and safe for you. So for instance, we have been restarting some medical placements, but for some areas where the hospitals are overrun, we haven't reopened quite yet, but we will do that once it's safe for everyone. And then we're staying very flexible during this time. We're happy to have plan A, plan B, plan C through plan Z. And you can always postpone and do it another time if you needed to. These are just some photos. We were so happy when we started sending people abroad again. So these are some photos from last year. So we have pictured here in Ecuador, Belize, Zimbabwe, and another Ecuador. So it's just been so great to see everybody on the ground again. Mm. All right. So for virtual placements, we have opened these up in Ecuador, Morocco, South Africa, Thailand, and Vietnam. These operate a little bit differently as we do have set start dates for these. We have a summer session and fall and spring. So they're cohort style because of that set start date. So you'll be starting with other students from different schools. Again, you'll have a challenging and meaningful project with a project supervisor and a site team who will be able to help with any questions that you have either culturally or with your project work. And then we also have cultural workshops. So these tend to be pretty fun, deep dives into topics. So we've salsa dance class, cooking class, learning about Vietnam pop music, which is really fun. Tea ceremony, things like that. So we wanted to create, even though you're not there in person, we wanted to create a sense that you can learn some of these cultural contexts and some of the fun bits that you would have learned on the ground. And then to continue those conversations, we have local buddy chats. So everyone is paired up with a buddy who is usually another local student in country. And then you'll be able to talk about pretty much anything, but usually around the subjects that you talked about in the cultural workshops. And then we also have the same reentry toolkit, but also an added professional guide of GlobeSmart. So this allows you to figure out your own work style and compare it to the country that you're working in. So you can kind of anticipate any challenges that might come up, or you can look back on it if any challenges do come up and figure out how can you kind of bridge those gaps. And for costs and commitments, these are a set price of $12.85, regardless of which session you do. All right, so these are just a few. We have so many internships, but these are just a few to give you a taste of what we offer. So again, ranging pretty much every major And even if it's not listed on our site, we can likely still do it. So we had one person ask us about forensic entomology, which I hadn't even heard of before. I guess it's like, crime scenes with bugs. I don't know, but we can do it. We can offer forensic entomology placements. So we have a lot in the way of climate action and conservation. We have, because we work with a lot of smaller NGOs, microfinance and business is a big area for us. We have dentistry and medical, pre-vet, marine research. I like the marine research in Mozambique that's with whale sharks. So if you're into whale sharks, that's one for you. Sports and community in Zambia, women's empowerment in Morocco. So some of these are also, we can offer virtual as well. We have LGBTQ in NGO development in Thailand. We also have an LGBTQ rights program in Morocco, which is a kind of unique one because we can offer it virtually, but not in person because technically it's illegal to be LGBTQ in Morocco. So if you're interested in that, that's a pretty amazing one because you'll be able to kind of get a different take on it virtually. All right, and the last I'm going to talk about today is the study and intern / service abroad programs that we have. So we have 3 of these running this year. We have one in Thailand this summer. This is working at or studying at the Mahidol University. You can get up to 6 credits, and then you would have a internship afterwards in Chiang Mai. So this one is particularly good if you're interested in business, as one of the classes is small business and entrepreneurship. So again, this is a really good option if you're wanting to do some academic studies and an internship alongside it. And then we have 2 tracks in Ecuador that we're offering this summer and fall, I believe. So we have the Latin Studies track and the environmental track. So there's a difference in the courses that you would take as well as the internship that you would do. So the Latin Studies track, you would do an internship in whatever you're interested in alongside the coursework, whereas the environmental track, you would do 4 weeks of coursework and then do 4 weeks of an internship. All right, so next up, you can definitely talk to me, definitely talk to Angelo, and look into some grant or scholarship options. So there's an international experience grant with Smith and the Praxis program through Smith. Follow us on social media. We post a lot of updates there. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Emily.
Yeah.
Nermeen, I want to turn it over to you actually briefly, because so you can talk about your plans a little bit. I think you have an interesting story that might be nice to share. And if you have any questions, I want to leave space for that too. But I wanted to talk super briefly as well, because shortly before we started the recording and everyone jumped on the call, Emily and I were chatting about the fact that the US State Department and the Gilman Scholarship have recently revised their policy for funding disbursement in locations which had been given level 3 or level 4 travel advisories, and mostly those have been lifted. So that's really good news for students who are hoping to go on a program like Kaya's, because it's in really interesting parts of the world that are not typically represented by students studying abroad. And that's one of the criteria for the Gilman Scholarship, beyond being a US passport holder. So really nice award amount, somewhere between like $3,000 and $5,000 typically. So definitely look into the Gilman Scholarship either for this year or next. And by next year, that policy, I'm sure, will be totally different or gone completely.
And off of that, Morocco is one placement that we have where you can get an added bonus because it's an Arabic speaking country. So
right.
for the
Right.
Gilman.
Exactly. Yeah, they also favor language study. Yeah, and thanks for putting a plug in for the International Experience Grant, of course. The point about praxis, that's why I asked earlier in the call about supervisors, because I was just looking over the Lazarus Center's requirements for which internship experiences qualify. And of course, like your recommendation, Emily, about length is an important one also here at Smith for that requirement. Because there's something about contact hours. I think with 8 weeks, you're very likely to be able to get 220 hours, if my math is right. And that's one requirement. But on top of that, the supervisor for your placement has to be somebody who's a full-time paid staff member, not volunteering.
Okay.
So that's just something to
Yep.
work into your conversations if you want to apply, for praxis funding from Smith for a Kaya program. So, yeah, that's another good one. It's $4,000 on average, I think, from the Lazarus Center that you can receive.
Oh, that's good.
It's really good. Yeah, it covers, it's not chump change, right? It covers a
No.
significant portion of program fees. If your program fee is even less than that, there are some program locations I think where it could be with Kaya.
Yep.
Then you're covering your basis for any of those additional expenses that come up. So,
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna stop talking and stop the recording. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Come see us in the Lewis Global Studies Center in Wright Hall, and we'll see you soon.